Welcome to the Female Stoic podcast. My name is Stephanie Poppins, and I am an advocate for literary empowerment. That means I believe the examples set by the literary masters can broaden our life perspective, create increased self-awareness, and empower us to overcome the obstacles we encounter here in the 21st century. By listening and referring what we hear to Stoic philosophy, we can foster a strong sense of self and navigate the world more effectively. This podcast takes the form of both discussions and meditations. And if you like what you hear, you might consider looking me up on my socials, where I post empowering videos every day. Or you may like my classic audiobooks and original stories available on my website, newworldbooks.uk. Happy listening. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Female Stoic podcast, number 42. Today's episode is entitled Living in Accordance with Nature, and we will be referring to the work of L.M. Montgomery. As you know, she was a Canadian author who was most famous for her Anne Shirley series, although she wrote many other stories as well, and only one of those was based outside of Prince Edward Island, which she celebrated and embraced wholeheartedly. There is, of course, an Anne of Green Gables museum still at Prince Edward Island, something that I have still yet to see. It is on my bucket list. And as I always say, if you want to check out the words of L.M. Montgomery, listen to the enthralling tales that she wrote in the 19th century, please check out my audiobooks, available everywhere you listen to audiobooks. And at this point I must also add I have 2 new Stoic courses coming up on Insight Timer. A working week Stoic reflection is 1, and Stoic lessons with the literary masters is 2. So have a look at those if you fancy challenging yourself or just want to extend your Stoic knowledge. And of course, with every week preceding this, we know that towards the end of this episode, there will be a journal task. And I am working diligently on the Female Stoic Journal, and I hope that will be out along with some of my original historical fiction later on in the year. So let's begin with the topic of the day: life according to the natural world, according to nature. In scientific studies, it has been shown that nature is responsible for lowering our cortisol levels after 20 minutes. After 30 minutes, it reduces blood pressure and our heart rate, and after 60 minutes, it improves the prefrontal cortex function, attention, decision-making, and emotional regulation. This is merely from the presence, our presence in the natural world. Our nervous system responds to nature in a way it does not respond to life indoors. It restores our attention and it regulates our emotional reactivity And this is something, as you know, we seek to work on as Stoics every day. The urban life that we experience when we are at work or perhaps even at home is demanding a constant attention of us. There's constant movement, decision-making, and, of course, technologically speaking, notification screens and so on. And this is something we do not find when we are immersed in the natural world. When we immerse ourselves in nature, we are feeding the nervous system. And this is a blessed relief from the busyness that we experience every day. If we allow our nervous system to run without being restored, we are creating a ticking time bomb. And of course, as Stoics, we realize that it's our job via daily endeavor to protect our inner peace, restore that which regulates our well-being. And one of those ways is, of course, the backdrop to our daily experience. Stoics define living according to nature as aligning with both the rational order of the universe, the logos, and human nature's capacity for reason. We are calling upon ourselves to do both. And of course, when we do this, we are cultivating inner tranquility. We are accepting the order in the universe rather than railing against it, rather than pushing against it, rather than refusing to work with it. So we are aiming to act in harmony with these natural rational laws that govern the cosmos. We are, as we recognize, part of nature, and our defining feature as humans is rationality. So the natural order of things means developing our capacity for reason and virtue. Nature we understand to be inherently organized. When we look at, for example, a river, we understand it teaches us balance, resilience, acceptance of the necessary course of events, and this encourages us to work with the natural order. There is so much to the world that is beyond just us as merely a human, accepting the part we have to play in the natural order of things, but also that we are not larger than we believe. We are an integral part, and actually for ourselves can play a large part, but in the grand scheme of things have a significant but small part to play. We are aiming to act in accordance with our own internal virtuous nature, and that is part of a greater cosmic system. Epictetus said, "Keep your moral purpose in a state of conformity with nature." And as Stoics, we see that nature plays a central role in our world view. Everything in the universe is interconnected, so we are striving to live in harmony with the natural order, not push against it. Nature encompasses everything in the physical world, from the smallest atom to the largest galaxy, a vast interconnected web of relationships and processes that are all governed by the logos. We understand as Stoics that we work for ourselves, and therefore, by protecting our virtue, by honouring our higher self, we are by default working for all things. We aren't just separate beings, we are part of a larger picture. And it is our duty to honour that larger picture. When we look at nature's patterns, processes, the laws of nature, we understand that nature is working in an excellent way. And it is working to our benefit once we register it and we acknowledge it and its significance. By seeking to develop our own excellence, we are honouring the power that we have as individuals and the small part we have to play. So nature here is more than just the natural world as we see it. But when we look at the work of, for example, Ellen Montgomery, we can see that as part of her endeavour to honour her higher self, to create as she feels driven to create, to connect with the natural world and so share the love of that and its significance in our well-being, she is playing her part in a much bigger story. All of these works we look at, all of the endeavours, the human endeavours we come across, the commitment to dreams, the commitment to fulfilling some vision, some plan, some goal, represent a commitment to the logos. Understanding the natural order of things is understanding the part we have to play. And my argument here today is we can only really play that part when we honour our higher self. When you honour your higher self and your virtue, you are by default giving to the world, contributing to the natural order. When you are vibrating at a lower level, you are very much taking, receiving. And this is the balance that we are seeking to create every day. The idea that we give more than we receive in order to honour our virtue. We understand that in spite of, and we see this is a very good example with someone like Ellen Montgomery, we understand that in spite of challenges, difficulties, when we seek to move beyond that and contribute to the welfare of others, the education of others, we are indeed honouring our higher self and so the logos. Now you might say, perhaps Ellen Montgomery didn't know that she was educating. She was just writing as a leisurely pursuit. But I would argue here that in order to craft an experience, put that into words so that it is translatable to anyone reading from all over the world, you are by default educating. You are, as it were, putting a spotlight on a moment that you have discovered that you wish to share with others, and that is an altruistic endeavour. The work of Ellen Montgomery was very much a delightful spotlight on the wonder of the natural world, the beauty that she could find in the most simple of moments. And this is why I love the literary masters. I read the female literary masters specifically because, in spite of their sometimes very compromised existences, they chose to move beyond that and honor their higher selves by creating something which superseded the everyday, which not just entertained, but enthralled and invited those who would perhaps not have had similar experiences into a world in which they could only gain access to through literature. Now, to go back to the Stoics, when we observe nature, it helps teach us balance, resilience, and acceptance of necessity. There is a rationality there. Things must grow, things must die, seasons must change. And Zeno taught us that living in agreement with this nature, this natural order, allows our life to flow more smoothly. It reduces this unnecessary struggle we have with reality. Seneca advised, "Let us keep to the way which nature has mapped out for us, and let us not swerve therefrom." We are trying to live in accordance with nature, which means accordance with both human and universal nature. And we are choosing to celebrate the natural world that is a physical manifestation of what the Stoic masters are speaking of. When we listen to Ellen Montgomery's work through audiobooks, which of course in turn expands our vocabulary, expands our knowledge of the natural world, we can hear lush sensory descriptions of nature, presenting it as a source of spiritual solace, healing, and romantic beauty. We hear the magic of the changing of the seasons, the comfort of the natural world, and the haunting quality of the natural world at twilight. Anne Shirley said in Anne of Green Gables, "Why must people kneel down to pray? I'd go out into great big field all alone or in the deep, deep woods. I couldn't live where there were no trees. Something vital in me would starve," she said. And Montgomery said in her journal in 1908, "Nature has always a gift of healing for us when we go humbly to her." She is recognizing the significance of the natural order here, something that is much larger than us mere humans. And so this is my message of today, to respect the significance of the Logos and to value the part we have to play, but also understand that we are beholden to it. And with that, actually, I would argue, comes a freedom. Because when you accept, when you understand the true nature of the universe, you can relax into it and enjoy. the journey. Today's journal exercise is related specifically to the work of Ellen Montgomery. I would like you to take a quote. Think about something you've heard, perhaps in the audiobooks, or perhaps you've read in one of Montgomery's novels. A quote from there, something that resonated with you, and write it in the middle of your page. And then I would like you to connect that in a spider diagram with all the benefits you feel nature can provide for you specifically. Those moments, those places, for example, those experiences you've had, and how you can choose to and aim to replicate those more regularly, incorporate those into your daily experience. In the words of this true literary master, you never know what peace is until you walk on the shores or in the fields. That is where you find your soul. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Hey, Stephanie here. Thank you for listening to the Female Stoic podcast. It is an honour, and I just want to say I really appreciate you being here. It's amazing the power of women in literature and the Stoic messages they have to share. Please, if you can, return the favour by spreading their words and sharing this podcast far and wide so more of us can benefit from their wisdom. And don't forget to leave a review if you like what you heard. See you next time.